Chapter 23. Fame is a mixed bag. As the golden rays of dawn painted the sky over shady pines with hues of rose and amber, Mountain and Johnny embarked on the task of providing some much-needed supervision of the construction site of their burgeoning residential estate just down the street from their favorite country club. Their hard hats sat atop their heads like they were crowns, as the two men clutched their blueprints in their hands, as if they were ancient scrolls guiding them through an uncharted territory. "Behold, our kingdom is now truly in the making, Johnny," Mountain declared rather grandly, with a twinkle of mischief dancing in his eyes as he surveyed the bustling scene before them. "Yes, Mountain, and a mighty fine kingdom it most certainly shall be," Johnny replied with a grin, his voice echoing with a thrill of anticipation as he imagined the grandeur of their future homes, once they were finally able to reside on the ground above their current subterranean living quarters that Mountain and Johnny had begun to affectionately refer to as the Golf Cave. As the days began to stretch into weeks, Mountain and Johnny next found themselves embroiled in a whirlwind of activity, their lives a symphony of both sawdust and scaffolding. In the mornings, they would don their golfing attire and set off for the verdant expanse of shady pines, where they would spend hours perfecting Mountain's swing and ability to sink putts with the finesse of a future Hall of Famer. "Golf, my bearded friend, is my true dance with destiny," Mountain proclaimed, with his voice carrying the weight of centuries of wisdom as he lined up his shot, in perfect cadence with the whisper of the wind through the trees, which in that very moment sounded as if it were a chorus of angels. "Aye, and we are the maestros of the fairway, conducting our flawless symphony of success," Johnny agreed with a loud chuckle, his eyes sparkling with both the thrill of the game and his love of acquiring even more money. But in the mix of all the hustle and bustle of construction and the serene beauty of the golf course, Mountain found himself grappling with the perils of his newfound fame. Everywhere he turned, cameras flashed and reporters clamored for a piece of his story, his every move scrutinized more than the last like a rare jewel under a magnifying glass. "It's like being a celebrity in a damned fishbowl," Mountain then mused, as his brow furrowed with the weight of scrutiny as he contemplated the seemingly never-ending gaze of the public eye. "Agreed, Mountain, but it is a fine fishbowl indeed, one that is filled with the finest trappings of success," Johnny quipped, with a rather mischievous grin tugging at his lips as he clapped Mountain mightily on the back. "And besides, what is life without a little bit of adventure?" And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars emerged to twinkle in the velvety night sky, Mountain and Johnny again found solace in the simple joys of their friendship and camaraderie. With each passing day, they grew more steadfast in their resolve to build not just a pair of homes, connected of course by an underground tunnel, but instead to construct a true sanctuary, a place where they could escape the pressures of the outside world and revel in the bonds of brotherhood that bound them together as if their two souls were somehow intertwined. But amidst all of the laughter and camaraderie, danger seemed to lurk in the most unexpected of places. It was not uncommon for the liquor store clerks in and around Beanfield to heckle Mountain a bit, saying things like, "Why are you only buying one bottle today, Mountain? You know that you will be right back for more." Then, on one such fateful drunken day, late in the afternoon just after returning home from purchasing a second bottle of booze, Mountain and Johnny decided to engage in a spirited jousting match using two stripper poles that they had recently purchased for home decor and two of their combined fleet of, by now, over a dozen golf carts. Then, only a few moments after their jousting match began, disaster struck. With a resounding crash, Mountain's cart careened off course, sending him tumbling to the hard ground below with a resounding thud. Amidst the ensuing chaos and confusion, it was discovered that Mountain had broken his wrist, an incredibly painful reminder of both the fragility of the human condition and of the perils that lurked beneath the surface of their idyllic existence. And yet, even in the face of such adversity, Mountain remained mostly undaunted. With his wrist now encased in a rather cumbersome cast, he continued to oversee the construction of their dream homes, with his determination unwavering in the face of hardship. And so, As the press continued to hound him relentlessly for the details of his jousting accident and speculated daily about his party lifestyle, Mountain remained steadfast in his resolve to rise above the fray and to emerge victorious, no matter how high the odds were stacked against him. He vowed to himself, within an earshot of Johnny, that he would do his best not to allow his many critics to get the best of him, and would make a steadfast effort to ignore them entirely. And then Mountain, after watching an extremely in-depth report on the local news that overtly questioned his dedication to his chosen sport of golf, clearly flipped his lid. He was simply no longer able to be in full control of his temper or his sanity, and next proceeded to destroy his television set with a golf club, in what would soon be his front yard. And when the gaggle of reporters who gathered at his property almost daily asked him about the smashed TV laying in pieces all over his front yard, Mountain then rather calmly, at least for the circumstances of the day, answered, "What TV?" and then proceeded to burn a large stack of extra golf cart tires in his driveway, with gasoline in efforts to help clear out the media by creating a nasty smoky stink that was likely also detrimental to their health. But then one night soon after, as the stars danced above the sleepy town of Beanfield, Mountain found himself careening down the winding roads near Shady Pines, with his bottle of whiskey in plain sight and his golf cart weaving like a drunken dragon in flight. Suddenly, the piercing wail of state police car sirens shattered the night's tranquility, painting the scene in hues of both blue and red. With a sheepish grin and a breath laden with the unmistakable scent of whiskey-induced mischief, Mountain was pulled over and issued a dewey. At first he protested the charge and declared to the police officer that his tax dollars paid for the officer's salary. Surprisingly to no one, this did nothing to help Mountain's legal case. The PGA then acted quickly against Mountain in their role as the guardians of the fairway and as the saviors of moral rectitude, as they wasted almost no time in delivering their verdict: a suspension from the hallowed greens of competitive golf. Mountain's fall from grace was as swift as a drive down a short fairway, leaving him stranded, yet again, in the rough of rehabilitation. Reluctantly, but not for the first time, Mountain found himself ensconced in the halls of a rehab facility against his will, like a fish out of water amidst a sea of sobriety. But to Mountain, the 12-step program might as well have been a 12-round boxing match with sobriety. A match where he was only determined to dodge his mighty foe of excessive intoxication, but not to land a knockout blow against it. Mountain did not even understand why he needed to go to rehab. After all, he thought to himself, he was not inclined to do any harm to anyone except himself while he was drunk driving his golf cart. He met others in rehab, after all, that were clearly much more dangerous to society than he was. For example, he met one unfortunate fellow, a few years his senior, who was legally compelled to attend rehab for earning himself a DUI while driving a freight train through the city of Beanfield and stopping off at the local tavern for a few shorties. Mountain did not know if the train-driving drunkard was referring to small beers or cute young ladies when he used the term shorty. But as the man told his story from the sharing circle that rehab forced the patients to participate in daily, Mountain was not certain how the conductor of the locomotive even got caught in the act, since as far as he knew, there were no traffic police on the rails. But it made Mountain feel better to know that there were people in this world who were even more epic fuck-ups than he was. While Mountain continued to wrestle with his demons, Johnny, ever the faithful companion, continued to stand ever by his side, offering kind words of encouragement and occasionally a poorly timed joke. "Well, Mountain, looks like you have really driven yourself into a sand trap this time, dude," Johnny quipped, shortly prior to earning a groan from his beleaguered longtime friend. But even as Mountain and Johnny languished in the confines of societal judgment, their minds wandered to much greener pastures, or in their case, even more lucrative sponsorship deals. "Picture this, Johnny," Mountain began, his eyes now gleaming with an entrepreneurial fervor. "Mountain Cap, sponsored by Beanfield's finest moonshine, guaranteed to improve both your swing and your spirits. Johnny then chuckled loudly, with his laughter echoing through the halls of the otherwise very boring rehab center. I can see it now, Mountain. The PGA will not know what hit them when they see you teeing off with a bottle of whiskey in one hand and a trusty joint in the other one. Johnny, I only have 2 fucking hands. How on God's green earth would I even hold on to my driver in that hypothetical scenario? Mountain quickly retorted, while laughing even more loudly than Johnny just had. But alas, their dreams of sponsorship glory were suddenly dashed by the iron moral fist of the PGA, who fiercely enforced a stringent and archaic code of ethics, and deemed Mountain and Johnny's ideas to be even more outlandish than a hole in one on the moon. Undeterred, Mountain and Johnny next took to the press, allowing their voices to ring out like the crack of a well-struck driver against a pristine golf ball. The PGA has rules that are as rigid as a sand trap after a mighty rainstorm. Their damned rules may as well be carved upon stone tablets, Mountain declared, his words dripping with sarcasm. I mean, who would not want to see a pro golfer swinging for the fences with a bottle of bourbon in his belly? It is just good old-fashioned American sportsmanship. Meanwhile, while Mountain struggled with both his image and his sobriety, Austin Graff continued to play great and steady golf and won a couple of additional tournaments, all while Mountain continued to serve his suspension from the PGA Tour. There was, however, a silver lining to this otherwise dark period in Mountain's rocky life, as Johnny Pulaski proved himself to be very resourceful as a businessman during this time, and was able to substantially increase Mountain's net worth, and hence indirectly his own fortune as well.